Hey guys, my name's Nate Hibbert. Me and my brother Steven Hibbert run the WingMan merch community over on Facebook. I just wanted to thank you guys for showing interest and clicking on this Merch Monday call. We try to do one of these every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. We'd love to have you guys in that group to watch them live and get all your questions answered. We're just putting them up on YouTube here so we can make sure that we're backing them up and kind of archiving them here. So if you guys want to join that group, the link will be down in the description below. Thanks.
I want to talk about landing zones. I'm glad that you and Stephanie are on the call. I'm going to have you guys kind of ask questions about landing zones that hopefully other people have. I'm going to attempt to not go like too far into explaining to lose the newer people, but if you guys see anything that I'm doing or just want to point things out or even just have questions, period, on anything or any kind of aha moments, because I think that's really what's missing is I'm just not explaining it well enough. And I think maybe the people that got some of those landing zones were not privy to a lot of information that we did before and just got it assuming something, and we didn't do a good job of like over explaining it because we've been getting that question a lot and we wanted to just offer that to the group. So we didn't take too much time of going like, this is now what we're doing. This is how it's going to be operating, kind of like how we did with Nathaniel's art team. People kind of understand art, and then people were getting the art going, oh, I don't know how to use this. And then it was just like, okay, well, here's how we see the art. We want it to be simple, bold designs that are easy to read on a thumbnail because people are either on their phone shopping or on the computer. It's not like they get to hold the shirt in their hand. This is why we make the art in this way. That's essentially what we're doing with the landing zones. I've been selling online for 10 plus years. Understanding like how traffic comes to a site and then searches on that site is something that I feel as if I've gotten really good at. So when Nathaniel started doing merch, probably about 2 years ago now, he was just throwing shirts up, having some success on some, but not a lot of success on a lot of other things. So as he started finding more success with certain shirts, he was telling me about the designs, but to me, as an outside person, not that artistic, I would look at both designs and say they look very similar to me. What you're saying makes sense, but as a customer, I don't know if that's truly what's happening. I think, and then as I was looking more at it, I think it was because the shirts that he was able to get in front of people were selling, and the shirts that he was unable to get in front of people were not selling. So we tested that probably over an 8-month time frame, and just like going deep into, let's test this. Let's put this as the title. Let's put nothing in the bullet points. Okay, let's test this against different art and just that. And that's what we call split testing. We would have the same art or the same title and switch up the art, just small changes through a lot of different things and split test. And we split tested, I don't know, countless shirts. Then we really started having a lot of success. We were showing other people what we were doing. They wanted us to do that for them. That's how we ended up taking over accounts. Then we were finding success with other people's accounts. So that's why we feel comfortable now teaching other people, because it's more than just us having success and us having success on other people's accounts. The people that we've been helping and teaching, and I hope Stephanie and Christy can back me up and say that it's been working for more and more people. We've helped hundreds of people at this point have success with using that landing zones, and landing zones are just gaps in the market where volume is coming in and competition is not very high to where we feel like we can compete. Now, we've built systems around what we're doing so we can go after more competitive places. And when we made the landing zone lists that we are now selling, we're trying to find even less competitive places. So for us, we feel very competitive going after like 5,000 results, but for all the landing zones, we're trying to find 1,000 or less results so that there's traffic, there's sales, and there's low competition, so that hopefully when people are using those landing zones, they can find success also. Now, I didn't want to do that for a long time because with the landing zones, I feel like it's just one piece. It's essentially the gap. So it saves a lot of time and research when you go, oh, I have an idea for a shirt, but I don't know where to put it. That's kind of one side of it. Or the other side of, I don't know even what to do or where to start. That landing zone is what helps you get started, because from that process, then you have to find additional keywords and you have to do art, and then you have to make listings. Now, you have to test that landing zone, because no matter how good a gap is in the market, the customer that's there, you have to provide something for that customer to buy that they want. Just because it's a gap in the market doesn't mean that you can throw up anything there and you'll find success. We still don't have 100% sell-through rate shirts. I don't know anybody that has that. Sorry. Everybody is muted? Okay.
No, no, I'm muted. I had a question for you, though. Is this a good time to ask that question?
Yeah, hit me.
Well, I'm wondering, well, two things. I'm wondering if you said that you think that you're not explaining it very well, and I want to know what makes you think that. And the reason I want to know that is because then I could give better feedback on what needs to be given. And for an example for that, I know that people sometimes, I've seen several times people that are confused about the split testing, and that little piece that you gave here just a little bit ago when you were talking about how you were split testing, that to me was a really piece of gold right there. That was very clearly explained, and it was very much of a, oh, that makes a lot of sense to me moment. And so I'm curious what makes you think you aren't explaining it very well. Are you getting some feedback on that?
Yeah, I've gotten a lot of PMs, and I've gotten, in the group even, people asking questions on the landing zones.
Okay.
But maybe I'm doing a decent job of explaining it, but those people haven't seen it. Maybe that's what it is. And we don't have a clear cut, like, here's landing zones fully explained in a short clip. We have the WingMan approach, which I think is like the best full explanation. So we are thinking about doing things a little bit differently and then switching it just fully over to a monthly subscription, because we feel like if people have that problem today, they're going to continuously have that problem. And we've already been like asked if we can offer it monthly. So I think if we do that, we might just offer that WingMan approach video along with the landing zone. So that way, okay, I watch this video, it fully explains, because in that you're kind of going over my shoulder and I'm showing exactly what I'm doing and then all the nuances of what landing zones are. But as far as like those question and answers, we don't have like a Q&A for landing zones.
Right.
We've broken it down to different videos, but it's all been like compartmentalized, I guess, and never put together. So hopefully this Merch Monday, I'm going to try to get all the questions out of the way. So any questions that people have, feel free to ask me, and I'm going to try to do my best to explain.
Jeff has a question in chat, and he asked, with landing zones, do you still make unique designs?
Yes. The landing zones are just the like initial research to save you time, and it's where the customers are and kind of what they're looking for. That's why when you go to that landing zone, you can see what's there and make similar designs. Oh, sorry. Make similar designs to what's there, or you can make your own design depending on when you look at the landing zone, what is there. Because if you go to the landing zone, it says like, I can't think of anything off the top of my head. Coffee pot or pothead is kind of like the one that I kind of go to that's like very similar. If you go to potheadshirt.com, it's a coffee pot. And it's just like the image there. So all of the images are the same. So it's very difficult to compete in that space when everything is very similar. But if you get like a surfing shirt, it's kind of open to interpretation. A lot of people are going to be searching surfing shirt for different reasons. Did that answer the question?
I have another question, Stephen.
Hit me.
So yesterday, the last couple of days, I've kind of been playing with some different landing zones, just, pulling up different things and getting data on it and stuff like that. So I found a landing zone that has 3 different landing zones that are relevant to each other. And all of them fit all of the steps, the parameters. That might be something to remind people what those are, I guess. But it fit all the parameters for it. And so my question is, on one of those landing zones, I get 9 results. And in the first 10 listings that are all relevant to the landing zone, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of them are under $1 million. 5 of them are under 500,000, one of them's under 100 or 200,000, one of them's under 100,000. So I went in, and that's kind of the same results on the other two landing zones that are also relevant to each other. So my question is, the strategy that I did for this, I thought this would be a good time for me to test what we've talked about flooding a landing zone. This might be a good opportunity for me to do that. So today I spent some time, I put up 7 shirts. And what I noticed was that as soon as they went live, they were on the first page for
Nice.
at least a couple of the landing zones. So my specific question is my mindset correct on that? I mean, since there were only 9 results, I have seen this question asked before, is that enough results? But since it met all of the criteria, as far as, people are not only searching for it, but people are buying from that small number of people. Am I correct with my thought process?
Yes, and I would say you've found a niche, and within that niche, you're finding good landing zones. And I guess that's what we are ultimately trying to show people. But in the beginning, just to start branching out, good landing zones is a place to start. Now, once you start building a business, we do suggest focusing on niches, especially stuff that you understand or that you like. But even if you have discovered something, which I think you found a good niche, and there's multiple landing zones inside that niche, just because one landing zone only has 9, that just means that it's very low competition. Now, how many people are going there? I'm not positive. There are tools to use, but none of those tools are 100% accurate on the exact traffic that's going there. But if it does autofill, like if you're typing it in autofills, that means that people are typing that in. So I would say yes. As far as flooding, I'm not sure. You're going to have to test. With 9, you don't have to do too much to flood it out because there's only 9 other competitors, or possibly a handful of competitors making a few different shirts. But if you're going to be going after that niche, I'm assuming the different landing zones that you see, you're going to be able to make art that fit all 3 of those landing zones. So I would make maybe 5 to 10 different pieces of art and then split test a lot of them so that you can get maybe 20, 30 listings out of that amount of art, and then see which actual landing zone is the best for you, because you might find, the one that has 9, I can consistently get sales there. And this one that has, I don't know, say 500, it's hard to get sales there, but I know as soon as I put it on the one that has 9 and get sales, then I can maybe play with the listing and get it more ranked on the more competitive one, because the sales now from the lower niche is driving a lot more traffic. So I have a lot stronger of a listing after it sells.
Okay, cool. That was a really good explanation.
Yeah, so I guess the confusion in that too is what I'm beginning a lot of, is a niche is different than a landing zone. A landing zone is just the Amazon page. Now, the niche that you're going after could be a lot of different things. We always use cat as an example. The cat niche is a huge niche. If you type in cat shirt, you're going to find a lot of shirts, and it's going to be very hard to compete on that cat shirt landing zone, because there is so much competition. Now, if somebody types in cat shirt, what's going to make them want yours? There's no real way to know. But if the person types in cat shirt and doesn't find what they want, the next thing that they're probably doing is putting in more words into the search bar. And that's where we're trying to grab that traffic. So whatever those next people are typing in, that's why we use the Amazon search bar to niche down. Say, okay, maybe they're not typing cat, now they're typing feline, and they're typing feline mom shirt or something like that. So that's a way to niche down. So if you identify the cat niche as something that, that's something I for sure want to go after, how do I niche down into this? Okay, taco cat shirt and feline mom shirt might not be the same art that I can use. So now those are 2 separate sub niches inside that overall niche. But there's very good landing zones at the taco cat shirt, and there's very good landing zones at the feline mom shirt. How do I now approach and go after each one of those?
Okay.
And that's what we're trying to teach everybody, is how to do that. But we understand that it does take a lot of time, a lot of practice, and especially a lot of understanding to fully understand what is going on, and especially what is going to work for you.
Yeah.
Nathaniel's business is completely different than a lot of other people's. I have not met anybody doing merch that has a brother that's been doing t-shirt art for X amount of years, and then like data selling on Amazon for as long as I have. I don't know anybody else in the space that's doing that. So we have a very different view, and we're attempting to break both sides down and give it to people in a way that they can use it. So from coming from the data side, it's hard for me to relate to people coming from the art side. So I think those are the people that have a lot of questions, are the people that are going to be making art for the landing zones. And I think because I've always just handed that straight off to Nathaniel, I don't have a great way to answer that. I guess that's maybe why I don't feel like I've been doing a great job in teaching it, because that was like a missing link. And I guess that's why I've always defaulted to Nathaniel. But because he's in Canada, I believe right now, I'm not able to reach him and go, okay, there's a disconnect here. We're getting a lot of questions about this piece of it. And I feel like we've done a good job, but just in the way that we've offered this, maybe we haven't done a very good job of like explaining what it is that you're actually getting, and then how do I use this piece of it.
Mm-hmm. Maybe a flow chart. Because I think one of the biggest challenges for me is I'm not an auditory learner. And so, having it explained to me, I usually have to listen to it a couple of times and then take notes for what I'm doing. So something like a flow chart might be helpful in that.
Yes, that is very interesting. And we could have a lot more, and that's something that me and Nathaniel talked about right before he left, is more visual aids, especially going from the VIP group, like what you guys are doing, and then like having more visual aids inside that. I don't want to say what we're doing in there, but an idea that we have of something that we're currently doing in a VIP group to have I talked about it in there, how to use the different platforms and how to do it, and then just have a visual aid for that to go, okay, if you are going to be using merch, this is kind of how we view it, this is how we use it, and these are the steps to it. And then from this step, here's how you move here, and these are the other pieces that we're going to be filling in on how to gather more information to make you like a stronger business instead of just relying so heavily on merch. We're always trying to tell people to diversify, but first you have to earn some money, and merch we feel like is the best way to do that. There's zero entry, essentially. It's just time. And then from there you can scale up fairly easily. It does take time, and there's pain points in this business, but as far as like understanding a business online, this is to me by far the best thing out there, because everything else has a lot of pain points, or at least financial boundaries in everything else. And this is just like, I don't see anything else like this that has this much traffic that you can just tap into instantly. Like, there's nothing even close to this.
Another quick suggestion would be maybe doing a poll of what people are having the most difficulty with, or what term do you not understand, and allow people to, and give a couple of terms there. We were, Tasha, but she's in the Legends group, but Tasha and I were doing that for a webinar we're doing for that group. And I was surprised at the response. People were very interactive with that. So that might be another thought in determining the exact pieces where those gaps are, by how many people respond to that survey. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Just another thought.
And that is very interesting. We know we have the ability to run polls, and I guess we've never used them efficiently. The last one we ran was the one for the VIP name. And I think that does get a lot of response. I guess asking the question in that way, like what terms do people want to know more about, or how do I define it more? I guess I'll be asking you when I do that.
Well, for sure.
Because you've been a lot of help. So I think I will. That is something that we should probably do.
Yeah.
And I think definitely with the visual aids.
Yes. Those are just some thoughts.
I'm
Now
making
let
notes.
somebody else talk.
I'm surprised I haven't got a lot of questions. Maybe because
I'm talking too much.
Well, I answered them inside the group, and I don't ever feel comfortable answering those questions like in a written form, because I always feel like there's a lot of information that I should be putting in there that I can't quite get into this paragraph. But I did break down. I can't remember whose question I answered, and I guess I'll point back to that too after this call is ended and I've uploaded it. Where I feel like I've gone through like, what is a landing zone? How do I use a landing zone? And then answering all the questions in there. Are all the landing zones in this pack similar? Are they all different? We're trying to, any pack that we make, even down to the 10 pack, give the most chance of success. So we are breaking them up. There's no one niche. They're not all evergreen. They're not all trendy. They're kind of like a mixture of everything, that anybody that gets any pack should find success in there. So even if they go, these two I don't know how to really make shirts for, but the rest of these I do. Okay, and this one's going to be evergreen, so it might only sell once or twice a month, or this trend might actually be hot right now. Let me go after this. And I guess the way that we define trends in-house is anything like that's less than 2 years. If we can't see at least a Google Trends graph that it's consistent over 2 years, that's kind of a trend to us. Evergreens are anything that's like consistently selling over multiple years that we can see and being backed up. And there's always market trends. So even stuff that's evergreen, that's been evergreen for 10, 15 years is eventually going to have a life cycle that's going to die out. There's nothing that sells forever. And we know that also.
I would say another thing along with that, as far as the polls go, it might also be advantageous to put in there, asking people how long they've actually been online or are connected with Amazon or any of those things, because some of the questions that you might be getting as far as that might lead you to think that you're not explaining well is not because you're not explaining it well, but because you're talking to a group of people that are at a different level, and so they don't understand the terms. So what, like right now, you're just talking about Google Trends and Marketplace and all that kind of stuff. For somebody that's relatively new to merch, they just, they heard about it, they got excited, they jumped on board with no background whatsoever. They're going to be confused by just the regular lay terms that someone who's been doing it for a while would understand and know about. And so that might be a good thing to poll as well. How long have you had any experience at all with Amazon, period? Because it's a shorter step if you've been doing FBA to merch than it is if you've been doing nothing and then you went to merch. And
this is true.
That would be another way that you could find out where those gaps are and then fill them, because it's not, again, because you're not explaining it well. It's just that your audience is in many different levels. And so I would suspect that where you're getting the questions are from those people that are at those levels where they're much newer to the whole thing. That would be my thought. I don't know, Stephanie, I would be really curious to see what you think about that.
I'm brand new to Amazon, period. So I think, I think you guys who've had that FBA experience have definitely a leg up, than somebody like me who literally just jumped in on merch months ago. It's a steep learning curve, especially when you're trying to figure out landing zones and keywords. So yeah, I'd have to agree.
Yeah, and I guess the people that are coming in new, I guess that is probably where I'm getting a lot of my questions from. And I guess that's where I feel like I'm not doing a good job of explaining, and maybe that's not the right terminology I should be using, because I do know that I try to explain things well, but just like that, saying Google Trends, saying market cycles, like those just might be more advanced terms, and I don't have a better way to say those things. And I think it might just be I'm doing a good job explaining it. I'm just using terminology that's not well known unless you've been selling online for a long time. And I'm not trying to sound bigger than I am. I mean, I can use much bigger words, but the simplest form of that is Google Trends, or just trends, I guess. There's a way to look at, I don't know. I think Google Trends is like the lowest I can go in explaining that.
Well, it's okay, but that would be an opportunity then to go on the survey and say, do you know what Google Trends are? And if a bunch of people say no, then that's an opportunity for a post. It's like, okay, this is my explanation for Google Trends. And that's where you can identify where people are getting that disconnect, addressing where people are getting that disconnect, but not having to change the way you talk, because, if you have to constantly be worrying about what's coming out of your mouth, then you're also not going to be very effective about giving the information as well. And so does that make sense?
Another thing to consider is people who were in the WingMan group, the 500 crew that were in there from the beginning, that were watching you do the WingMan approach, versus people who are maybe just now joining, who haven't gone back and seen those videos on landing zones and keywords. So they're trying to get caught up. It's not that it's not been explained, it's hard to find those explanations in the group.
Yeah,
that
that I
make
would
sense?
definitely, yes, I would definitely agree with that. And I, as we move forward, we are trying to find the best way to direct new people to that. And I guess if you are coming to this group in the last like few weeks, we've been talking very heavily about this landing zones and selling the landing zone packs. So maybe like some people got in late, heard that, and just assumed that that was something that they needed. So maybe doing a better job of explaining, hey, we're doing something new. If you're in this group, we suggest XYZ before getting into this. And I'm not sure. I have not been as intentional with learning everybody that's coming in as Nathaniel. He is on another level when it comes to that. If I even said somebody's name, he'd be able to tell me exactly how long they've been in the group, and everything. I think that's why we like the units, because then we could check to see who has learned what. It didn't quite work out the way that we wanted, and we weren't able to refresh the units as much as possible, but we might go back to that just so that when we do have something new come out, we can say, okay, before you buy landing zones packs, go to this and make sure you're going through all these steps in this unit. So it's like a separate teaching thing before you go and purchase something that
Exactly.
you might not understand.
That would be, I would say that's exactly on point. And then remembering too that there's always going to be people that want to have it handed to them.
Yes.
You know, they're not going to want to do the work, and there's only so much you can do, because except for redirect them back to, you know, when an example would be, last week I was on a webinar where we talked about replenishables. Tash and I are doing a webinar on replenishables. Now I'm getting all the private messages. Oh, can you just ask this question? Oh, can you just answer that question? That type of thing. And I keep on redirecting people back to the website and saying, I'm
All
happy
those
to answer
questions
this, but first ask your question on the Facebook page so that everybody can benefit from it. And second of all, first go here and listen to that. And then if you still have questions, then I'm happy to answer it. I'm paraphrasing that. But the point is that, you know, there's some people that just, you know, they don't want to learn. And so you could be the best teacher on earth, and if somebody doesn't want to learn, they're not going to get it. And so maybe that's the group of people that you have to be careful, or not leading you to thinking you're not doing it well. There are ways, I think, to find those gaps and to fill them. I think you're totally correct on that. But then there's also that small group of people that just doesn't want to learn. And there's nothing you can do about that group of people that don't want to take the time to learn it themselves. And so directing people back like that, I think, is always the best way to go.
Yes. As we are building this thing out, we have more and more of those places to direct people back to. But as I was looking this week of just like, oh, we never did like a short, quick breakdown of landing zones and all the questions of like how to use this next. And I think that was part of what was stopping me from before to give out those landing zones, because I felt like it was, to me, a small step, but I understand to people that are more artistic or don't have time, it's a huge hurdle. Just the same way that art is a huge hurdle. Like, I'm never going to be making shirts. That's just not in my repertoire. There's nothing that's going to make me sit down in front of a computer and do that part of it. So that to me seems like a unobtainable goal to do that part of it. So to be able to offer people something that they don't want to do was a huge benefit, especially since people were asking for it, and then we offered it to those people first and then opened it up to those group. It sold out almost immediately, so it was very telling that people need this information. But then a lot of questions came after that made me question of like, oh, maybe we should have done a different job or done this in a different way, because we have talked about this for so long, and the people that we first offered it to, I think, had a very good understanding of what it is that we're doing. And the next time we talked about it, we didn't have that same group of people. We just kind of went into everybody. And probably the newer people are seeing a lot of this stuff that we are doing now and not going back. And maybe continuously directing people to that and I know for me, when I go into a new group, like I don't want to go back and learn all the information. I just want to hear the new stuff and be up to speed. But because Amazon changes so much, it's very difficult to like direct people back. But the core of what we're teaching, I think, stays the same. Like no matter what platform, no matter how much Amazon changes, what we are ultimately trying to do is find high traffic areas with low competition. That's true for any aspect of our business. As we teach more on other platforms and how to do different things, it's going to be more apparent that a lot of places are not like Amazon, where it's super competitive, almost down to like an nth degree, to where it seems weird that I have to niche down this far. But when you get out of the t-shirt space, and especially since merch is that new like shiny object that a lot of people are flocking to, I think in the coming months, a lot of people are going to drop off because they have not found success with it, and they've just been making high quality art, but not putting it in very good places, so nobody's seeing it, and that's very discouraging. And I understand that part of it, and that's why I think I like helping people like that, to go, hey, that's an amazing design. Instead of just saying, hey, I have an idea and I'm going to throw this out there, take a step back and go, where is this audience? Where are the people actually spending money? Okay, let me focus my time and effort there instead of just making something that I enjoy. Now, for artists, I think it's a little difficult to make that like switch from going, I'm just doing stuff that I enjoy, to, okay, now I need to make stuff for an actual purchasing audience so that I can make money with this talent.
Do you think that the pinned post at the top of the Wingman Facebook page, that's still all the core material? Is that not correct?
Yes.
Because that's what I went through. And I went through it multiple times. And even though I did have rabbit trail call experience before that, that was advantageous for me. But I do still feel like I got everything that I needed to learn about landing zones specifically in those pinned posts. And so I understand what you're saying about that, about, you know, things being outdated and stuff like that, but you said a key point there, and that the core stuff will always be the same. So again, I would go back to, that's where a flow chart might be helpful, as far as go to the pin post first, and then do this, and then do this, and then you're ready for landing zone package type of thing. I think that could really be beneficial.
Yes. I think I'm a very visual learner, and that will be something that I'll be getting with Nathaniel to do more of. Because even that post that I made with that tree, I got a lot of positive PMs about that post alone. And I didn't think I did much of anything different other than just have a visual piece to it, and then just as I was talking, relate back to that visual piece. So I think it would be even more powerful to just have a complete visual aid, like you said, a flow chart to go, okay, brand new, start here. Do you understand these terms? And then just have like a direct, like if you answer yes or no, and then just direct the people. And we should probably be addressing that pin post on almost everything that we're doing, because as we are getting more people in the group, that is, I think, the best place to start. And I don't see anybody else on Facebook using the pin post in that way, to like, oh, I click on the picture and then within that picture, the post is there, and then I can click even deeper into anything else that I want. We should make an intro video. I guess that's what we were working on right before Nathaniel left. We're going to try to do that when I meet up with them at CES, because we'll both be at the same place, so we can shoot some videos there. But yes, the pin post and directing people to that should be a higher priority, and before we even get, like in the Merch Mondays, how we're doing, hey, thanks for everybody being here. If you're new here, go to the pin post. That should just almost be like a default of what we're saying. I'm going to actually make a note on top of those. Rebecca!
Hey.
Everybody jumps on for a second.
So, I'm relatively new. I've been with you guys like 6 weeks or so, and am a part of the VIP group. But I am very much trying to play catch up. So, you know, I withhold a lot of my things because I'm like, oh, I haven't seen this video. But there are things that are difficult to find. So I am looking forward. I know the website will come, and that'll be an easier way to see and find everything. But I do need to find some success in this before that. So I am going back, and I have done most of the pinned posts at the top. You know, but there are some difficulties finding some of the videos that are available and would be helpful.
Yes, and that is why we are moving over to a website, because as hard, as much as we're trying to make Facebook work, it is just difficult to make the platform work. And posting videos on Facebook is difficult without having a directory. We were attempting to use the units, but then the units kind of destroyed the whole Facebook. It was very difficult to get back to the discussions when the units first came out. Now that the units have been around for a while and they kind of give you an option of how you want the site to be displayed, we might attempt to use them again. But that was the best thing for us at the time, to be able to go, okay, if you're having problems with art, go to these units, and then all of the videos are inside that. And then it was like kind of a step-by-step, kind of like how we use the Trello board, but a little more user-friendly, but still not friendly for us to like, oh, now Amazon has changed this, let's pull out this video and replace it with this video. It was like you couldn't do that. You had to destroy the whole unit, put up the new unit, and everybody that has gone through that is now not completed that, and then they have to go back and watch the whole thing when instead of just adding one extra video. So the website will hopefully be set up in a way that we go, okay, here is like start here, here's then the keywords, here's then the art, here's then like everything else that we're talking about, split testing, in a way that you can watch all the videos. They'll hopefully be a lot more written and now visual aids to help people along that process, because if you were here from the beginning, this all probably makes sense. But if you're coming in now, like it's probably very difficult to go like, where is this stuff? Because we even have people searching back in like the events and stuff and going, oh, we saw that you did on nonprofits, and we saw you did this thing on partnering. We saw it, like we did, but then we pulled all those videos, like we put them live, then we talked about them for months, and then we pulled all that stuff, because that's how we were doing it before, because we didn't want to put it anywhere else, and we just thought, oh, the group is small enough, there's only 30, 40, 50 people in here, let's do it this way. Every time we test something or try something, let's just put it live here and then pull it down. That worked, but now it doesn't really work with 800 plus people, because especially now that's kind of why we default to cat, because before we were giving like actual niches and actual landing zones, and we were really realizing that a lot of people were jumping on it, and then it was flooding out the niche. So it was like, okay, we can't really show this to 400 people, because 400 people will then kind of do that thing, even though we were trying to just use it as an example. So that's why we use cat, because we feel like the cat niche can support thousands and thousands and thousands of more shirts, especially now that we're telling people how to like better niche down, find things, the same kind of thing. I mean, we said this in the VIP, but we've said this in other places too, like even 4th of July, take 4th of July and take cat and put those things together, like, because there's a lot of people searching each one of those. Somebody's going to type in 4th of July cat shirt, and then you're going to be amongst very few people, especially the people that target that landing zone properly. And I guess since you've come in later, how would you say the best way to use a landing zone is?
Well, being really new, I have jumped on a landing zone, thought I researched it really well, thrown up a shirt, and then been like, oh, this totally didn't work the way I thought it was going to. The next time I went, Amazon was showing, and you've mentioned that, was showing totally different data on that landing zone. And I was like, oh no, I used one of my slots, which I can pull it down, but and time and energy and all of that for something when I didn't have the full picture. But I'm getting better at recognizing landing zones within niches and trying to figure out exactly where it is. But art is a huge block for me right now, trying to find stuff that I can use with commercial, without infringing on anything, because I want to be real careful about that.
Yes. And that's why, thank God, I have my brother, because this business as a whole is a lot to learn, especially in the beginning. And then there's a lot of touchy subjects like that, like the trademark with the words that you're using and the art that you're using. But you said something that I have touched on before, but never gone super deep into. And I guess this is what makes teaching very difficult when I'm talking about landing zones. When you go and look at a landing zone, if you have not been doing merch for a while and you see something and trust Amazon is showing you, like, if you're putting 100% faith in Amazon, you're going to be led astray. And I guess the only way to get better at that is just by repetition. So finding what a good landing zone is and then seeing what a good landing zone is now and that will continue to be a good landing zone is something that I take for granted because I've been doing this for so long and I understand like very high level behind the scenes of what Amazon is doing, like what A9 is doing, what their search engine algorithm is doing, and just constantly poking and prying at that thing to be on the cutting edge of what is actually happening behind the scenes. So when you find a good landing zone and you go, oh, it looked this way to me today, and even if I look tonight, it looks very different. So it's hard to teach people when you go, oh, when you see this thing, for sure make sure it's here. I think that's why we're cautious about telling people like to dump all their efforts and resources into one landing zone and not like first understand a niche is probably the best way to go about it, but until you can even do that properly, you have to test out different landing zones and see, oh, just like you said, oh, I tested this out, I thought it was going to be good, I put a shirt here, and then I went back and re-looked at it and understood, oh, it actually has changed quite a bit. Not to say that it won't go back and change back into what you saw originally, but it's going to be difficult until you go, oh, I've looked at so many landing zones that I know this one has a higher likelihood of changing than this one because this niche, I've niched down so far that even if it changes with everything that Amazon's doing, there's not a lot of competition here, period. So if I go to cat shirt and it's showing that there's 100,000 and I know some sounds fishy because cat is a huge niche. How is there not more than this? Even like going deeper into, I guess I'll talk about that in a second, but cat niche is a huge niche. If you don't know what you're looking for and just take Amazon's number as truth, it's going to be very difficult to compete in that space. But if you go, okay, I've niched so far down feline, mom, certain kind of cat shirt, I know at the core there's not a lot of people going after this. So no matter what Amazon is doing with the search algorithm and how they're displaying things, there's not a lot of competition for this. So anybody that's typing all of that in, I have a much higher rate of success because I'm competing against a lot less people. I'm a big fish in a small pond. Now to go
right, and I did like the way you were talking about building it from a small and then it ranks up the list as you get sales in the small fund, then you move up to a bigger and a bigger and a bigger because they see it selling. And I think that's
yes.
a great way to build your assets.
Yeah, and we stumbled across that because in the regular selling on Amazon, you don't have to do that. You just find your level of competition and you kind of just go after that. Eventually you might go after the broader niche, but it's very difficult. So if I'm selling a pan, I want to sell like a spaghetti pan. So I know I can consistently compete on spaghetti pan. But the problem with shirts are there's so many people then that go after spaghetti pan that you have to go down and go, okay, I want grandma's spaghetti pan and then just keep niching down. So you want to eventually sell enough to get back to spaghetti pan because that's a level that you can compete on. So I had to learn that from Nathaniel having success. It was the Florida shirt that he went after. It was a very small niche. It was something that I didn't think was going to sell, period, because it was so far down. There was nobody else there, and it sold. And then as soon as it started selling, it's still showing up on Florida shirt. Like if you type in Florida shirt, his shirt is there because it sells so much that it's consistently on there. So we found, if you niche all the way down without just the intent of, I'm only going to sell to these people that are typing in this super long-tailed word, but I'm really targeting Florida shirt. So I know the niche that I'm going after. Now, when you're first starting, this is not that, it's still useful, but it's not something that you should be spending all your time thinking about. You should just find very low competition and then just spend your time there. Now, as you get better and you find sales in that, then you can step back and go, okay, what niche does this fall in? How do I better target the overall niche? But to start, do as good a job as you can to show up on that landing zone. So that's why we say the landing zone, that's really what you're targeting. You want to use that landing zone almost verbatim as your first thing in your title. Now, I would add stuff onto the back of your title so you can spread a wider net. The same thing with the bullet points, so you can spread a wider net. But you want to definitely target that landing zone. So if that's the landing zone that you're going after and you make a shirt for that, you want to check to make sure that you come up on that page. Because if you are, then you know you're doing a good job. Now, if nobody's buying the shirt, then you have other problems. But to go after a landing zone and rank on the first page and in the top 10, that's what I'm trying to teach you. Now, there are other steps to get your shirt sold, but that's like the first hump you have to get over. Because if you're going after a very competitive niche and you're going, oh, I can get in the top 10 of this, and then you don't rank, then you have a bigger problem. Nobody's seeing your shirt. So you want to go to the level of competition that you feel that you can go after, and then try that. And I guess that's really what our landing zones are. They are perfect beginner spots that even if you're not a beginner and you understand how to use that landing zone, you can then go, okay, this is the overall niche. Now I know I can get sales here, and then start ranking up and going after the bigger pond, being another big fish in another big pond.
And then I do also think Christy had a point in that if you do have background, if you're just jumping onto merch, you don't understand keywords or Amazon or rankings or any of that. So depending on who you're teaching and where they're coming from, that can drastically affect what they're gleaning from your phraseology and your terms.
Yes. I guess I would ask you too, is there any terminology that I'm using that you are unclear of or think there's a better, or just even a word that I can explain more clearly?
I feel like I have a pretty more the data side down, and I'm really stuck on the art and so that's not really what you're dealing with tonight, and that's cool. But that's my pain point right now, is trying to get decent art into my designs.
Okay, well, I thank you then, because that makes me feel better about how I'm explaining things. Because it was like, for a while, I was like, oh, maybe I'm just like way off. But maybe it is just the information is being missed somewhere along the lines, and I just need to do a better job of directing people. So again, that's why I was trying to do this tonight, so that I could cut this up in a way that goes, if anybody has any questions of this, or if we are going to sell these packs, then these clips should be on this page first. So before they buy, they can watch these clips and then have a full understanding of what they're purchasing before they purchase it and go, oh, okay, I am completely lost here. I don't know what I just bought. And I think it is because we talked so heavily about it for the last like 2 weeks, because it is something new that we were trying to do and then finally accomplished, and then we were talking about it so much. So I think the new people coming in probably saw that, jumped on it, and not fully aware of what they were getting into. But I mean, it's only been a few people asking different questions, and it's almost the same questions that I answered in the group. And then after I answered it in the group, I just was directing people back to that. But another big one was when you find a good landing zone and you start going deeper into the pages, we are only concerned with the first page because we are trying to come up on that first page. Now, what is actually happening is Amazon sees what you're typing in, and they're trying to give you what they think you'll buy immediately. So you don't go deeper into the pages, because most Amazon customers, as soon as they type in something, if it's not on the first page, they'll do a different search instead of going down deeper into the pages. So they want to make the most money as they can. So they put what has consistently been bought on that page there. Now, if nothing has really been bought, then they kind of gather what they can and put it there. So when we type something in and we see that it's 1,000, Amazon is giving the first 32 on the first page the best shot. And then they do have some other ones that are kind of related, but they say like tier 2. So if you do click in, you'll see those tier 2. But if you go past that tier 2, then of course they're going to try to, I use the example of like kid in a candy store. They're going to give you everything to satisfy your need, because they know that this is the word that you typed in and you want to look further. So whatever they're showing you is not what they want. So then they start throwing everything in there. So as you go deeper into those lists, you'll start seeing like, oh, it's no longer shirts. They're showing me kitchen appliance. They're showing me everything. So when people are going, oh, there's actually 8,000 of this result, I can't be like, no, there's not. But it's hard for me to explain that to somebody to go, okay, the first page is Amazon's truly trying to show you what you're looking for. As soon as you go to page 2, then they really start getting nervous and start pulling in other things. As soon as you go to page 3, then they go, oh, actually, just kidding. There's not just 150 here. There's actually 10,000. So keep going, because that's, that there are some customers that like to keep digging. So now they want to make sure that customer buys something. So that's why they start throwing everything at them. Why they display the results that way, I don't know. It has changed, especially even the last year, has changed quite a bit because it used to tell you the exact numbers. Now it even shows like weird numbers like, oh, over 2,000. So I don't know what they're trying to glean from that. It has gone back and forth for probably 4 or 5 months ago. It was going back and forth quite a bit. And now it seems like they're just on this new system. So you'll never truly know what's on a page unless it's less than 1,000. And I think that's why we're trying to give that list to people so that's okay, these are all under 1,000. There's very few competitors here. You really only need to be concerned with the top 10 or the first page because we want you guys coming up on the first, like we want you guys coming up as number 1 as whatever that is. So we have consistently been able to do that. And even as split testing and everything, we've been able to take over the landing page because we've gotten very good at targeting our listing and a word I hate just throwing out there, but optimizing our listings. There's a lot to that. So I don't want you guys just to hear optimize and go, oh, I can optimize my listing. There's a lot to learn inside just optimizing. But split testing helps to find out what is actually working. And because Amazon doesn't give any back data, like who the customer is, what they were typing in, what they searched when they clicked on your item, like none of that information is given to you. So you have to test. And then from your testing, if this shirt sells 5 times and this shirt sells once, then you kind of know the one that's selling 5 times is doing something better than the one that's selling once. Hopefully it's the same image so you don't have that problem because that's a Nathaniel problem completely. I don't have anything to help you guys with that tonight, sorry. But if the title is slightly different, if the bullet points are slightly different, you can kind of glean some information from that. Even like the colors that were bought, you can sometimes pull out and go, okay, maybe let's only make this shirt in this color. Because when people go there and they see the hero image, the hero image is the first image that they see. So the thumbnail image. So when they see that first thumbnail image, you want them to buy that one. If it's black that they're always buying, then maybe only make the listing black. So that's the only one that they see. And if they want more, then make another listing and have the other colors on that. So at least you can have both of the listings up. There's nothing preventing you from making 5 different listings with 5 different colors. Now, is that the best use of your time? I'm not quite sure. It depends on what tier you're at, what you're trying to do, really. But that is a strategy that we've used. And I think in trying to help people, there's so much things that you can do that we are trying to break it down to a way that to not overwhelm you. So the landing zones are first piece. It's to speed up your time. We have vetted those to know that traffic is coming in, people are buying here, and this is what they're typing in. Now, with that information, you should be able to rank at least in the first page. And then as you get better, you should be able to consistently get ranked in the top 10. And then as soon as you're able to do that, then you should really be trying to dig into a niche and fully understand that niche. Like Christine was talking about, she's been doing it for a while now. So now she has a better understanding and she goes, oh, there's multiple landing zones inside this sub niche. How do I better go after these sub niches? And then you split test a lot of different things. You use a lot of different the same art. We're trying to get more into like teaching people these are assets that you're building. The art, the landing zone, the keywords, all that stuff should be, you should do the best you can to keep that stuff together. I know it's very difficult, especially when you have lots of listings, but keep that stuff together because those are assets that you can use in different places. And as you grow your business and as we keep teaching, we want to show you guys how to get the most value out of those assets. And I think that's when that flow chart is really going to be the most useful when you go, okay, here's starting with nothing. Here's how you test. Here's how you find your niches. Then after you find your niches and then gather your assets, here's now how to use the assets to their best capability and get the most out of them.
Exciting stuff.
I must be going deep now because people are dropping off the call fast.
But see, I thought that was really great information, though. I mean, and that covered a wide range of more simple answers into more complex answers.
Yes, I have done nothing but been very good at selling on Amazon over a long period of time. It is a grind at certain points, but with merch, to be able to like take a full step back and just worry about the simplest parts of it and then scaling up, I think merch is by far the best place to start. Because as soon as you understand that, and then you go, okay, now I want to apply this to wholesale, RA, OA, private label, building my own brand, building product lines, all of that. The information that we are teaching you is like core information that you can build a business off of.
I would also say with that, Stephen, one point that I think is good to make with that is that you need to have that foundational knowledge in order to build a consistent long-term business, but it's not going to be fast.
Yes.
People sometimes have the misconception that just because it's easy that it's fast. And it's not, because there is, Rebecca, I think, said that, there's a learning curve, and that's totally right. Or maybe you said it. There's a learning curve. Oh, sorry, I didn't have my video on. It doesn't matter. There's a learning curve there. I was eating fish. There's a learning curve that has to happen there, but I still go back to the fact that especially people that are coming from no background to right into merch, sometimes the background they're coming from is more of a network marketing or multi-level marketing or years of understanding that you're being sold a get-rich-quick thing. And so that's a misconception that I think needs to be addressed, or at least something needs to be said about the fact that just because it's easy to do doesn't mean it's fast to do. But it's important to do it that way if you want to have long-term success. And,
yes.
and I would be happy for somebody else to tell me that I'm all wet on that. But that's really my thought process in that as well, because that might be where people are getting maybe frustrated, or that's not quite the word, but they're starting to doubt themselves and their ability because it's not happening fast enough, when that's not really the issue. They're doing everything right. They just haven't given it enough time to season themselves yet.
Yeah, just the Amazon platform is a very large platform. There's a lot of base information that you have to know to even get a listing up. And then from there, it only gets broader, the more information that you have to know. Especially now teaching with Stephanie, that's put another perspective on how I see things. Stephanie is having more success on other platforms because she understands those other platforms a lot better than she does merch. I've spent a lot of time on merch, or not on merch, but on Amazon's platform. So I feel like I understand the Amazon customer, I understand the Amazon platform, I understand where Amazon as a company is trying to go. I can take all that knowledge and then apply it to everything that I'm doing. In other platforms, Etsy is kind of the next one that we're moving into. Stephanie knows that way better than me, and especially even teaching last Thursday, just going, oh, that's really why you're having a lot more success, is because you understand that customer. You can get your products in front of that customer because you understand what that customer is looking for. Selling online, period, I think is a big learning curve. And if this is your first foray into selling online, this is leaps and bounds ahead of anything I've ever done, because before, when I was selling, it took forever to just learn the basics to get a listing up and live. So being able to kind of skirt all that and get immediately up to a listing point, and then understanding the listing point and then understanding the customer point, I think merch is leaps and bounds ahead of any other platform, especially because it's free. A lot of that stuff is free to do. You can make listings free. But yes, there's a limit to it. You are capped and you do have to tier up, but I feel like that's the best system. If you're unable to sell 10 shirts, then you shouldn't have the ability to list 100 shirts. Sorry, there's something you need to learn first to be able to sell. We are doing our best to help you sell your first shirts to continue to tier up, because we feel like merch is a very valid way to make a living. And with the information and everything that you're doing on merch, at some point you're going to have to build a system, because at a certain tier, impossible for you to even hit your daily numbers, because unless you are the fastest designer ever, when you hit those pro tiers and you can do hundreds of shirts a day, that's going to be your life. So hitting that point and then building a system is where I like to get people at, because from when you build that system, then the world is kind of yours. As soon as you understand, oh, I started here, I tiered up, this is the point that I got to, and now I'm building a business. Now, how do I use this information and these people inside my business to grow my business? We are starting to turn that on in the VIP, and I'm excited about that. It's going to take more time for us to teach this group And I think the website is really what's going to be that next step in like teaching. And maybe not even that. Maybe just a visual aid to show people, if you're just starting, here's where you're at. These are all the things that you kind of have to know. Here's the basics. And then after you've learned all the basics, here's the next steps. And then just a visual way to see the steps, because it's in my brain. It's some other people have grasped onto it, even people that are reaching out to me and going, oh, I now see this and I'm doing this because I've been doing these other parts, especially private label. A lot of people that know me from probably private label more than merch scene are going, oh, now I see how those two things fit together, and I'm really starting to have success doing these things, and all the art and everything that I'm doing, I'm able to now do with my private label and even stand out even more from my competition. And that's where I think as the business grows and as selling online grows, the way to niche and define yourself in the market is really what's going to set you aside from your competition. And if you know the basics now, in the next 5-10 years, you're going to be leaps and bounds ahead of everybody else, especially knowing and understanding kind of what's going on, especially here on Amazon, because they don't give you really any information. You kind of have to piece it together like a Rain Man type of situation. If you have that ability, then you will find success anywhere else, because nobody before gave you any analytics. And now with other platforms coming in, they're starting to show a little bit more analytics, and it's so much easier. I don't know. I don't know how to explain that. From going out into the desert blindly to then having somebody like show you exactly where to go. Here's all the water spots, instead of like running down oases and hoping that there's water there. Like someone just guiding you along that path is a much easier, clearer way to do it. I don't think Amazon's ever going to let that information out. They do kind of with the Seller Central, but they give the data that you are going after on your own listings. They don't really give a customer side. Etsy does the customer side. Some other print on demands do that. It's very exciting going into that, because you can take that information and then kind of not directly use it on merch, but have a better understanding of what's happening. If you're going after like 4th of July, what's more things inside the 4th of July niche that you can go after. Amazon's not going to tell you the information, period. You have to use a lot of tools to kind of piece it together, but possibly on Etsy, if you are in there and you understand how to use Etsy, they will give a lot of inside information that you can go, oh, I would have never thought about doing it like that. A unicorn, 4th of July. Now let's see if that works on merch. Oh, nobody's actually doing it over here. So I don't have any data to pull back, but I know this things to be true because there's information from here. Let's apply it to here and see if I can be the only fish in the pond over here.
But that's more advanced strategies too.
Yes. Yes.
And
yes,
so, yeah. So going back to basic stuff, it's still the point of what you guys are doing such a good job of is building that foundational business, because none of those other things will mean anything at all if you don't master that first step first.
Sorry, I was just trying to read chat. Okay, some people say I'm doing a better job. Okay. VIP group is closed. We are going to be opening that up. We are probably waiting for the website, and it will be not the VIP group, but it will be access to the website and how we're doing things over there. So hopefully before year end, the website will be up, and then all the information. I don't know how to explain that now. I don't know what we're doing with the VIP group. I think the VIP group has turned into something completely different than the membership site as we were thinking. So I think the VIP group will be what it is. And I'm not sure if we'll have new people in there, but the membership side will be coming. And a lot of stuff that we're doing in the VIP group will be offered in that membership. Just maybe the calls in the VIP group will be the only thing that stays inside the VIP group, and all the other information will be inside the membership group. The VIP group I'm so thankful for, because we had a definite plan for that. And like 3 weeks in, just talking to the people in there has realized like, oh, we should be doing this completely different. Instead of us like leading how we feel it should go, we should be opening up to them and having them direct us. And now, as of late, it's really taken a whole nother switch, and I think it's going in a much better direction. I guess time will tell. Even from the last call that we had last week, I was like blown away at how far we've come in that VIP group, just because we've only really been doing it for a month and a half. And I would have not thought teaching with Stephanie was something even in the cards, but just what we did on Thursday, I think, was very powerful and very insightful. And I'm starting to see people even have success with that, and it has only been a week. So that's very inspiring to know that, oh, I feel like we made a much better call in going in that direction, because people are already having more success that way, instead of us trying to force people partnering in this direction and knowing how to go to the next steps the way that we outlined it in our heads. Do we have any more questions just on landing zones or anything else data related? I'll let this call go on for a little bit longer. Yes, it was a great call. Yes, yes, yes. Is Stephanie still on here? She is just muted and mic'd off.
I'm here. I was on mute.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you again. That was so enjoyable for me. This week I'll probably be teaching more, but I do want your insight on just the Etsy platform.
Okay.
Just having another person being able to have that much insight into something. Because if it was something that we were trying to tackle, we would have definitely gone in a different direction. But because you know the Etsy customer and you've had success on that platform, it speeds up. The same kind of thing we said too. Like, you can do this stuff on your own, but the only thing that we're really trying to do is speed up your learning process. There's nothing that we did to make us amazing other than just being two halves of this business and brothers and testing and trying. But everything that we're doing, we feel everybody else can do. Christy's definitely touched on it on her Thursday inspirational pieces. Like, she consistently says, hey, if I'm doing it, anybody can do this. This is the same way I feel. It comes off a little different when I say it, though, because I see when people look at me, they go, oh, you only say that because you have a brother that's doing all the art. But there are other people in this group that are doing the whole thing, and they're killing it. Now, how they're doing it, I don't want to get into that, but they are doing all parts of the business, which is amazing to me. And we are trying to show them, okay, now that you've had this much success, instead of doing this much art per day, hire an artist to do that. Or instead of doing this much data research, here's a way to do that much faster, especially hiring VAs. I think that it's a very quick step to VAs in doing merch. And I know a lot of people kind of struggle over that hump, but when you hire a VA, that you just pretty much double yourself. You get another 8 hours per day of work. And it's mostly stuff that you don't want to do. And if you have somebody doing that piece of the business that you don't want to do for you, and that's the only thing they're doing, they're going to get it very good at that. The VAs that I've hired for merch are maybe a year. I've worked with them for a year. But they have gotten extremely good at what they're doing, almost to where they're better at a lot of things than me now. Because when I do data research, I'm doing it for a lot of different things, but they're only doing data research on t-shirts, and they're able to show me, hey, what if we do it this way? Or what if we use this tool in this way? Or how do we type this in to get these results to be able to filter this out so we're not wasting a lot of time doing it this way? And how do we autofill these things? It was like, that sped up everything that I was doing. Plus, they're speeding up their time. So it's even compounding on that. So if you're having some success on merch, I would suggest start to see what you like to do and what you don't like to do, and start handing off that stuff that you don't like to do to other people. So partner up is kind of what we always suggest, but a VA is another option of, I guess, partnering. But working together with other people, especially, there are people in this group that have partnered up that have found success. We were trying to foster those relationships. It's very difficult, but we have a cool idea when we do get the website up. I guess me and Athea in-house kind of talk about it like it's a dating app. It's something like that you can fill out different questions and then see where your strengths and weaknesses line up with somebody else's strengths and weaknesses. And we're going to be, hopefully, fingers crossed, talking to some people that already have, I don't know what you call those tests, aptitude tests, that kind of profile you to show you where your strengths and weaknesses are. So we're going to be hopefully partnering up with some people like that to be able to do a better job, instead of just going, hey, do you like art? Hey, do you like data? Okay, here's the people that you should be matching up with.
Good stuff.
How do I teach the VAs? It's going to be in steps. How I teach the VAs now is I have some videos built up, and I have the other VAs talk to the newer VAs coming in. So if this is the first VA that you're training, there's always a teaching and then letting them kind of run wild. And I think that's where a lot of people get stuck on training the VAs. Like that first initial teaching is a little difficult if you've never hired somebody and taught them before. So that's a process by itself. But in your, what are you doing? Show another person to do what you are doing. And then let them do it for a while and then see where the holes are. And then that's kind of how we tighten up what we're doing. Because there were a lot of things that I was doing in the beginning that I showed somebody else to do that were just maybe bad habits or could be done better. And in seeing what they were doing and getting back to me, I saw very glaring holes in what I was doing. So it made me much better in my process by just teaching other people my process. So if you are looking to hire a VA, teach them your process. And again, if it's something that you do not like, just teach them what you are doing. And then as soon as they start bringing stuff back to you, you'll be able to quickly go, okay, I was way off base here. I should have said it this way. I should have explained it this way. And then go back to them and then just have that conversation with them. There are videos that we've done that you can probably show them, especially on the Wingman approach video that we've done. There has been a few people now that have shown that to their VAs, and they said that really helped. It's not technically a training video, but it does have everything kind of laid out, like the overall picture. You would just have to be able to tell them, this is exactly what I want you to do. Take this part of that video and do that. No other landing zone questions? Okay. Let me just run back through that post. I think I covered everything that was asked. Variations, yes. Are they evergreen? Yes. Oh, the rules that we're using for the landing zones. Our normal rule of thumb is 5,000, less than 5,000, at least one that has, or at least two that have less than 1 million, and at least 8 out of 10 have BSR. And sorry that jumped all over, so I'll say it again. When we go to a page, we want to see less than 5,000 results. When we run Jungle Scout or Scope, we want to see that at least 8 out of the top 10 have BSR, and at least 2 of those 8 or 10 are less than 1 million, because that shows that they're selling, and they're selling at enough of a rate for us to feel like it's justified to go after. For the landing zone packs that we are making, the qualifications are much tighter. We are only displaying 1,000 or less results. And again, because Amazon is changing up some things, so by the time you guys see them, maybe it will be at like 3,000, but we're trying to keep it as low as possible when we see it, so that by the time, if months go past, it will still be a good landing zone. That's the results on page. Then we want at least 9 out of the top 10 to have BSR. We want at least 3 of the top 10 to be less than 1 million. So we're hopefully finding the best places for you to find success, because there's the fewest competition with a good amount of sales, and the traffic that's going to be coming, there's no way to truly gauge that, but they do autofill, so it tells us Amazon sees traffic there. Then we do use tools like Merchant Words, Google Trends, and a few other tools that are paid that are very expensive, but we piece all that together to give you guys the best chance of those landing zones. It is what we are doing in-house. So the list that we would be using is the same list that we are giving you guys, because we are changing our business model, and we don't want to crank out that amount of art now, because it is getting feverish. And I think that's part of why Nathaniel's taking a break, because it's just becoming too much of a madhouse. Doing 500 listings a day is amazing, but not day after day after day after day after day after day. It just becomes kind of a nightmare. So in that transitional period, we've gotten a lot of landing zones that we are continuously vetting. We are still providing that to the accounts that we've taken over, and we are now because I've hired on the full team and they are just going hog wild, there's a lot of excess. So now we are just offering that to this group. The same kind of thing that we did with the art side of our business. We grew it to a place where now we were able to finally do 500 pieces of art a day, and then we got better, so we could do more than 500, so that we could provide those VAs to this group. Is the same thing that we're doing now with the landing zones. Now, finding niches and building niches, that's maybe something else that we can offer to this group, because we are not taking accounts over anymore, and at least I enjoy doing that part of the business, is like finding gaps and then how to find a niche inside that gap, and then how to actually like compete inside that niche. Because once you, cat again is an example, if you find a way to compete in the cat niche, there is a few steps that you can take to then go to products inside that. So if you're going after cats and you found a cat niche that you can go after, cat like leashes and other things are fairly easy products to go after if you understand what you're doing. So I want to be able to teach that in a way that a lot of people can do that, because I feel like the market is wide open on stuff like that. I really don't see anybody else doing that, and it's very surprising to me that I don't see anybody else doing that. Okay, no more questions. You guys have a good night. Stephanie, hopefully you're still around, because I need to jump on a call with you. Everybody else, have a good night. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I would ask that you put them in the group, so like Christine was saying, that everybody can see them and everybody can learn from them. If you have any questions on the landing zones, I will tag a post under this. So if you have those questions, I've written out some answers, so hopefully that will also help everybody that doesn't want to listen to however long we've gone now, hour and a half video. You guys have a good night.